In June of 1983, college sweethearts Hannah Myers and Daniel Lorne were married in a small outdoor ceremony in Carmel-by-the-Sea, California. The wedding, overlooking the cliffs of Point Lobos, was everything they dreamed of: joyous, intimate, and surrounded by nature. Hannah, 23, was a literature student with auburn hair and eyes like sea glass. Daniel, tall and thoughtful with wire-rimmed glasses, had just finished his architecture degree. They'd met in American literature class at UC Santa Barbara, falling in love over heated debates about Hemingway. A single photo captured them mid-laugh, her veil caught in the wind, his hand around her waist. Behind them sat their sunshine yellow Mercedes-Benz 280 SL, polished for the honeymoon drive down the legendary Pacific Coast Highway. Daniel had spent months restoring that car, working evenings in his father-in-law's garage while Hannah brought him sandwiches and read travel guides aloud. That photo would later become the only widely circulated image of the couple. The reception was held at the Highlands Inn, where guests danced under string lights as the sun set over the Pacific. Hannah's mother, Eleanor, pressed a small wrapped package into her daughter's hands, a compass that had belonged to her grandfather. "For when you lose your way," she said with a knowing smile, not realizing how prophetic those words would prove to be. Just 3 days later, Hannah and Daniel were declared missing. The morning of June 12th brought another perfect California day. The newlyweds loaded their Mercedes with suitcases, a cooler packed with food, and a bottle of champagne saved from the reception. Hannah wore a flowing sky blue sundress, her hair pulled back with a silk scarf. Their first stop was McWay Falls, where they marveled at the 80-foot waterfall cascading onto the pristine beach below. Daniel pulled out his professional-grade Nikon camera and took several shots of Hannah posing near the overlook. These photos would later be developed and found in their car, showing a radiant bride without a care in the world. They checked into the Ventana in that afternoon, a luxury resort nestled in the redwoods of Big Sur. The desk clerk would later tell investigators that the couple seemed absolutely radiant and completely in love. They dined at the resort's restaurant that evening, sharing local Pinot Noir and planning the next day's activities. That night, they sat on their private deck wrapped in thick bathrobes, watching stars emerge over the Santa Lucia Mountains. Hannah wrote in her small leather journal, "Day 2 of married life. I never knew happiness could feel so complete." The couple had told family they planned to stop in Big Sur, then hike briefly into Los Padres National Forest before continuing south. They were last seen checking out of a bed and breakfast near Bixby Creek Bridge on the morning of June 14, 1983. The proprietor, Mrs. Elizabeth Thornton, watched from her kitchen window as the sunshine yellow Mercedes pulled out of her parking lot at approximately 2:30 p.m. She had warned them about the dangers of hiking alone in the wilderness and suggested they stick to marked trails. Daniel had assured her they were experienced hikers, though he remained vague about their specific destination. They never made their next reservation in Cambria. No calls, no sightings, no vehicle, nothing. Local sheriffs and park rangers launched a full search of the rugged coast. Helicopters combed cliff edges and trails. Authorities feared the worst. Perhaps their car had skidded off a narrow turn, plunging into the sea. But divers found no evidence in the waters below, and aerial scans revealed no wreckage. Ground teams followed every trail, calling their names until voices were hoarse. The Coast Guard searched the waters, while the California Highway Patrol set up checkpoints and distributed photos. For 6 weeks, the search continued with no results. The couple had seemingly vanished off the face of the earth. For the next 2 decades, the case remained dormant. Detective Ray Morrison, the lead investigator, pursued every angle, including the possibility that the couple had stumbled upon something classified. The Big Sur area had a history of military activity, and there were persistent rumors of hidden facilities in the mountains. There were doors that wouldn't open, Morrison told a reporter years later. Questions that couldn't be asked. It made you wonder what they were protecting, and whether it was worth 2 young lives. Conspiracy theories bubbled online, some outlandish, others plausible. Did they run off to start a new life? Was Daniel involved in something secret? Had they been victims of a crime deep in the forest? With no leads, no remains, and no evidence of foul play, it was quietly marked as a cold case. The families eventually held memorial services, though Hannah's parents never stopped searching. Eleanor Myers, now in her 70s, continued to pursue every lead, no matter how unlikely. She maintained correspondence with investigators, checked in regularly with park rangers, and kept a detailed file of every theory and potential sighting. "A mother knows," she would tell anyone who would listen. "My daughter is out there somewhere, and I'm going to find her." Fast forward to 2003. A young intern named Miguel Ferreira, working on the beta testing phase of Google Maps' satellite imaging project, was tasked with scanning through forested zones in central California to identify mapping errors. Miguel was a 22-year-old computer science student from UC Berkeley, working his first summer job at Google's Mountain View headquarters. His assignment was to review satellite imagery, looking for discrepancies between satellite data and existing geographical information. While reviewing imagery northeast of Julia Pfeiffer Burns State Park, Miguel noticed something odd. A perfect rectangular clearing hidden deep within the Ventana wilderness, completely surrounded by trees. At the center sat a concrete bunker-like structure, barely visible under the canopy. What stood out most? The surrounding pixels were warped, distorted, appearing blurred in a way Miguel had only seen in deliberately obfuscated military zones. The anomaly triggered a deeper scan using older, low-resolution historical imagery, and to Miguel's shock, the clearing had not existed in the mid-80s. It appeared sometime between 1983 and 1985. Miguel spent hours analyzing the imagery using advanced filtering techniques. He discovered that the concrete structure was roughly rectangular, with what appeared to be an entrance on one side. The surrounding area showed evidence of vehicle access, a faint trail leading from the nearest forest road to the clearing. But when Miguel overlaid current imagery with historical data, he made his most significant discovery. The road leading to the clearing had been there in 1982, clearly visible. But in 1984, that same road showed signs of deliberate obscuration. Trees had been planted, brush had been allowed to grow, and the path had been intentionally hidden. Someone had gone to considerable effort to erase this location from view, both on the ground and from above. He flagged it to his supervisor, who quietly forwarded it to the local sheriff's office in Monterey County. Detective Sarah Chun, now leading the cold case unit, received the call about Miguel's discovery on a Thursday afternoon in late August 2003. When she saw the satellite imagery and compared it to her case files, her pulse quickened. The facility was located less than 5 miles from Hannah and Daniel's last confirmed sighting, in an area that search teams had attempted to access but had been turned back by difficult terrain. More importantly, the facility's timeline matched perfectly with the disappearance. Chun contacted FBI Special Agent Robert Martinez, who escalated the case to a joint task force involving multiple federal agencies. Within 48 hours, representatives from the FBI, CIA, Department of Defense, and Forest Service had descended on Monterey County. The task force was led by FBI Special Agent Patricia Hendricks, a veteran investigator specializing in cases involving classified facilities and national security breaches. She had spent 15 years cleaning up the loose ends of Cold War operations. "The good news," Hendricks told Chin, "is that we finally have the technology to address these historical cases properly. The bad news is that you're probably not going to like what we find." Using coordinates from the satellite map, A joint task force consisting of deputies and U.S. Forest Service officers hiked off-trail into the rugged wilderness. It took nearly half a day to reach the location, following no marked path. What they found shocked them: a partially buried concrete bunker, sealed with a rusted hatch. No signs of habitation or labeling, and about 40 feet from the hatch, overgrown but clearly visible, the frame of a yellow Mercedes-Benz, crushed flat under years of fallen tree limbs. The bunker was small, roughly 20 feet long, with a steel-reinforced door and dated ventilation grates. The interior was remarkably well preserved, like a time capsule from the early 1980s. Inside, investigators found a bed, a table, and 2 vintage chairs, clearly government-issue furniture from the 1960s. Several unopened cans of food with 1982 expiration dates. Hannah's purse sat on the small table, its contents undisturbed. Daniel's camera bag was propped against one wall. A romance novel Hannah had been reading was open on the bed, a receipt from the Carmel bookstore marking her place. But it was the typewriter on the main work table that provided the most crucial evidence. A sheet of paper was still rolled into it, and a thick stack of additional pages sat beside it, detailing daily entries in Daniel's precise handwriting, beginning with, June 14th. The road ends here. This place isn't on any map. The entries described how Daniel had found the site on a solo hike a year before their wedding. The structure had apparently been an abandoned Cold War-era fallout shelter, never documented on official records. They had returned on their honeymoon with plans to spend one night off the grid, a romantic adventure. The initial entries were playful, even romantic, as the young couple treated their discovery like a private adventure. But on their second night, something went wrong. The entries became erratic. Daniel described seeing lights in the forest, hearing voices, and growing increasingly convinced that they were being watched. In his last coherent entry, he wrote, "I think someone knows we're here. I saw a light. Then it was gone." After that, the entries became increasingly paranoid and fragmented, suggesting that Daniel's mental state had deteriorated rapidly under stress. Forensic teams confirmed that the vehicle belonged to the couple. Inside it were Hannah's wallet, a bottle of champagne, and 2 developed rolls of film from their wedding and honeymoon. The car's engine showed clear signs of professional sabotage. Fuel lines had been cut, electrical connections severed, and key components removed. This wasn't random vandalism. Someone with automotive expertise had systematically disabled the car to prevent the couple from leaving. Fingerprints in the shelter confirmed both Hannah and Daniel had been inside. But then came the most chilling discovery. Hidden in a hollowed-out panel behind the typewriter was a cassette tape labeled, "For our families, if anything happens." On the tape, Daniel's voice was calm but clearly strained. This was supposed to be a fun secret. Hannah found some old government manuals in one of the filing cabinets, and we thought we'd stumbled onto something historical, like an old fallout shelter from the Cuban Missile Crisis. Daniel described their first night as everything they had hoped for, romantic and adventurous. But their second day brought trouble. They found surveillance equipment that seemed too modern for an abandoned facility, and documents suggesting the site was still being monitored. We tried to leave, but when we got back to where we'd left the car, it wouldn't start. The engine had been sabotaged isn't the right word. More like disabled. Very professionally. The tape ended with Daniel's voice dropping to a whisper. "I think they want us to stay here. I don't know who they are, but someone doesn't want us leaving with what we've seen. If you're hearing this, we didn't leave willingly." Despite public interest, FBI involvement halted further information release. They cited national security concerns, noting the shelter's construction matched a series of Cold War facilities once used for covert operations during the 1960s, then abandoned and scrubbed for maps, Agent Hendrix's investigation revealed that the facility had been Remote Station 7 Alpha, part of a classified network of monitoring posts established to intercept Soviet submarine communications off the California coast. It had been abandoned in 1982 but still had automated security systems designed to prevent unauthorized access. These systems could disable vehicles, jam communications, and deploy containment protocols. The technology was primitive but effective enough to trap two young people who had stumbled upon the site by accident. The security had been triggered on June 15, 1983, when Hannah and Daniel's presence was detected. The automated response included disabling their vehicle and activating containment protocols. But the human agents who were supposed to respond had been reassigned as part of the facility's decommissioning. Hannah and Daniel had been trapped by a security system that was still operational, monitored by personnel who no longer existed. They had died not because of a deliberate decision to eliminate them, but because of a bureaucratic oversight that left them caught in the gears of a machine that had outlived its purpose. To this day, the actual cause of Hannah and Daniel's deaths remains undetermined. No remains were found, only their belongings and the eerie trail of paper and tape. The clearing, once visible via satellite, has since been blurred from Google Maps. Attempts to revisit the site are met with dense overgrowth and no trespassing signs believed to be recently installed. Detective Chun had the difficult task of informing the families about the discovery. Eleanor Myers, now 73, listened with stoic dignity as Chun explained what had been found. She was always curious about everything, Eleanor finally said, tears streaming down her face. Even as a little girl, she had to explore every trail, look behind every door. I suppose it was inevitable that her curiosity would lead her somewhere she shouldn't have gone. Daniel's parents received the news with a mixture of relief and anger. Relief that they finally knew what had happened. Anger that it had taken 20 years and a chance discovery to learn the truth. The families were eventually awarded monetary settlements from the government, though no amount could compensate for 20 years of uncertainty and grief. Eleanor used her settlement to establish a scholarship fund in Hannah's name for young women studying education. Daniel's parents donated theirs to organizations advocating for government transparency. Some believe they were in the wrong place at the wrong time, accidental witnesses to a hidden facility the government didn't want rediscovered. Others say it was just an unfortunate accident compounded by isolation and bureaucratic failure. What's certain is that a newlywed couple went into the forest chasing romance and ended up caught in a secret far bigger than themselves. Their story became a cautionary tale about the unintended consequences of government secrecy and the human cost of prioritizing national security over individual rights. The case helped prompt legislative changes requiring human authorization for any security measures that could result in harm to American citizens. But significant questions remain unanswered. How many other facilities had similar systems? Were there other incidents that were successfully covered up? The story of Hannah Myers and Daniel Lorne is ultimately not about government conspiracies or Cold War secrets. It's about two young people who fell in love, got married, and embarked on what should have been the adventure of a lifetime. Their wedding photograph, Hannah laughing in her flowing veil, Daniel's protective arm around her waist, the sunshine yellow Mercedes gleaming behind them, captures a moment of pure joy and infinite possibility. It's an image of two people who believed that love could conquer anything, that their future together stretched ahead like an open road. For 20 years, all anyone had was that wedding photo and unanswered questions. Family members who never stopped searching, investigators who never stopped wondering, and a public that occasionally remembered the young couple who had simply vanished into the California wilderness. Until a Google Maps glitch revealed the truth. Buried in plain sight, hidden in the mountains where two hearts had stopped beating, but where their love story would be remembered forever.